Under heaven. In ancient times, people lived according to the way. Where does the way come from? I say it is nowhere and everywhere. Where does enlightenment come from? I say that it does not need to come from anywhere, because it is always there to begin with. Where do virtues come from? The sages give birth to them. The enlightened leader completes them. Those who do not abandon the way are called realized beings. Those who abide in purity are called the virtuous ones. The way is the source of being, virtue is the root of being, and enlightenment is the gate of action. Those who are at one with both transformation and constancy are called sages. Those who use benevolence for inspiration, who let integrity guide their actions, and who incorporate music and ritual into their everyday lives are honorable men and women. The ruler who uses the principles of enlightened leadership to establish laws and regulations, to make decisions and plan actions, and to assign appropriate people to the right tasks are vigilant in repairing roads, dams, and irrigation ditches. They give food and shelter to the needy, make sure that the citizens are nourished and cared for, and are the enlightened leaders of humanity. Sages, honorable men and women, and enlightened rulers all have this in common. They see themselves as the caretakers of the earth and its inhabitants. They bring harmony to the nations, and they extend their bounty and fortunes to all. Today, people do not understand that realizing the sage within is the foundation of leadership. They don't see that the enlightened leader in public is the manifestation of the sage within. Confused and deluded, they choose to abandon the way. Petty and arrogant, they follow their desires, make their own rules, and impose their beliefs on others. If they are wealthy, instead of valuing simplicity, they drown themselves in extravagance. Instead of using virtue as a standard by which to measure their thoughts and actions, they govern their lives by greed and ambition. Instead of aiding others in times of crisis, they criticize those who inspire peace and harmony as weak and cowardly. Preferring force to yielding, they are indeed far from the way. Not to be tempted into using vulgar means for the sake of convenience, not to show off their wealth, not to bring suffering and hardship to others, and not to curry favors from the crowds, but to seek peace and prosperity for the world, to ensure that no one goes hungry and destitute, to know contentment, and to be pure and honest in everything they did. This is what the sages did in propagating the way on earth. To act for the good of all and not be partisan, to be unbiased and just, and not to give in to the whims of the mob and interest groups. This is what the enlightened rulers did in propagating the art of the way in government. Discarding flowery knowledge, doing away with the importance of self, not forcing your will on others, and not meddling with the natural course of things are the principles of the way. Don't be too serious and pedantic, but at the same time, don't be too cavalier. Take out the corners and file down the rough edges so that you can tumble and turn with the 10,000 things. Go beyond acceptance and rejection. Don't get stuck on what came before, and don't be anxious over what will come afterward, but rest in the immediacy of the present. If you don't scheme, you will not invite perils. If you don't look for praise or recognition, you will not tangle with the jealous and the petty. If you rest in stillness, you will never lose clarity and good judgment. A large tree will be knocked down by a storm, a shrub with pretty flowers will be picked clean, and bushes with juicy-looking fruits and berries will be denuded. However, a tree that looks ugly and gnarly will escape loggers. Dull and unattractive flowers will not be plucked, and fruits that look dry and uninteresting will not be harvested. To regard the source as pure, to blend with the coarse and shun the shiny, to regard hoarding as poverty, to live in peace and contentment, and to abide in the radiance of stillness rather than the glamour of the world, these are the arts of the way. For those who practice the arts of the way, gentleness and humility are their outer marks, and respect for all things is their inner essence. When you are not preoccupied with yourself, then things will reveal their true nature to you. Let your movement be as fluid as water, your stillness be like that of a mirror. Lao Tzu said, "Know the male, but never let go of the female. Become the gully and not the ridge. Know purity, but do not abandon practicality. Strive for the valley and not the peak. When others push their way to the front, stay at the rear. When others lag behind, go forward. Where others hoard, embrace that which is empty. Where others tire their bodies and minds for achievement and profit, be easygoing and leisurely. Use profundity as your root and simplicity as your guide. If you are too brittle, you'll be broken. If you are too sharp, you'll be blunted. Always be generous and accommodating. Inflict no pain on others. Keep yourself from being twisted by trends and fashions. Trendy clothes are discarded when they lose their glamour. Fashionable ideas will be replaced when they no longer attract interest. The way, however, stays around because it is timeless. Jiangzi expounded the way in an odd and outrageous manner. But then he himself was an oddball. He expressed the teachings of the way as unadorned, free of bias, fresh and incisive. He was not afraid to be nonpartisan. He never curried favor from the authorities or the crowds. He simply came and went with the pure spirit of heaven and earth. Although his words were sharp and wild, they never caused harm. Strange and unorthodox, his manner of teaching was never arrogant and derogatory. Above, Jiangzi wandered freely in the embrace of the source. Below, he befriended those who knew no beginning and no end. His understanding of the way was broad, expansive, profound, and penetrating. He resonated with change, yet was rooted in the constant. When he spoke, his words were always valid. When silent, he was hidden and arcane. Jiangzi was truly one who embodied the way under heaven.